A baby is found burned to death, but there's no fire. No one knows how the baby died. Do they really not know? Or do they have evil among them? Join me as I try to figure out this strange and heartbreaking story of baby Maribel. Hey Ravens, welcome to the Ravens Knock. I'm your host, Amy. I want to thank you guys for liking, sharing, and subscribing, and also referring your friends. If you're not a premium member, you can do so for $7 a month, which is like a cup of coffee. It does help the show out, as podcasting is not free. And you get ad-free content, bonus episodes that no one else gets. And with that said, let's go ahead and get started. Cha Lo and Kai Yang was over the moon over the birth of their baby girl. Kai had wanted a girl for so long, and now she finally had her. They had 3 other children, all were boys, so this was very exciting for the entire family. Chai worked as a truck driver, and he was usually out of town for the week and would usually return on the weekends. They would talk every day, usually for a couple hours at a time. Kai didn't live alone. Her adult brother lived there, and her mother, Choa, would come over every day to help with the kids. This was a team effort, and they all pitched in to help. Kai worked in an office, and after the birth of her daughter, she began working at home, just a few hours a day, on her computer. Kai was born in the U.S., and around 14 years old, she began to have seizures. She took medication for it, but she felt like it wasn't really helping her. She said she never had a warning beforehand. All she saw was a flash of light and then she's out. She had no time to react. If she was standing, she would fall. She bit her tongue about 90% of the time, and she would always wake up tired, confused, disoriented, and she would also lose control of her bladder. This is a generalized seizure. Her family stated she did have the jerking motions when she was having them, but one family member stated she saw her at times staring out in space. If that is true, that is one symptom of a seizure called partial seizures. Now, I'm going to have to tell you about seizures because you need to know this information in order for you to understand what happens. So bear with me. I'll make it as short as possible. Seizures are caused by abnormal electrical discharges in the brain that can be caused by head trauma, stroke, brain infections, tumors, or genetic causes. They can be generalized or partial. Partial seizures can be simple or complex. A simple partial seizure affects a certain part of the brain, which may affect a certain part of the body, such as a shaking hand. But this does not cause you to lose consciousness. A complex partial seizure spreads to both sides of the brain and involves a partial loss of consciousness or a loss of contact with the environment. It's kind of like where the person is awake, but they are staring off in space, and they may exhibit automatic movements. They may walk around and perform simple tasks like taking off their clothes without being aware what they are doing, and they definitely don't remember it. Now, they cannot perform complex tasks. A general onset seizure is what many people think when they think of a seizure. Their arms retract, they lose consciousness, they jerk. This used to be called a grand mal seizure. They last a few minutes. Now, you can have more than one type of seizure, which is rare, but you can only have one type of epilepsy. Basically, what that means is you can be diagnosed, say, with generalized seizures and complex partial seizures. Then that is the only 2 types of seizures that you will have. You will not develop the other per se. Or if you only have generalized seizures, you will not end up having partial seizures later. I hope that kind of helps you understand that. After a seizure, you go into what they call a postictal state. Think of it like somebody comatose. They're trying to come back to reality. Now, some people can become very violent during this stage because they don't know where they're at or how they got there or what happened. Some people are normal. They're just really confused. All of them are tired. Now, just so you know, this is a side note, if you ever see a dog having a seizure, you might want to stay away until the seizure passes, especially with big dogs. They may bite you out of total fear and confusion. They don't know who you are when they wake up. They don't know what's going on, etc. Now, after the seizure is over and they are back with it, then you can love on them. A friend of mine had a Great Dane and he almost took off her nose. He didn't mean it though. I have a Great Dane. They're such goofballs. Okay, now that we have had that lesson, and hopefully you all will understand going forward what happens. Kai stated it was a normal morning on March 17, 2011. Chai was out of town working as usual, and her mother came over. Kai needed help applying for some benefits, and her mother was planning to help her with those. Kai brought the baby Maribel to her mother to watch so she could run a quick errand. She ran that errand and came back home and began to get the boys ready for school. Once they were ready, Choa walked them to school, and when she returned, she began to work in the yard for a while. Kai was putting together a quick breakfast for her youngest son, and Chua came in and changed the baby's diaper. Kai, at that point, told her son to shower, and then she got him ready for school. Chawa had put the baby in her bouncy seat and began making breakfast for the rest of them. The baby began to cry, so Kai gave her a bottle, which she rejected, so she gave her a pacifier and she went to sleep. For some reason, she was a little bit more fussy that day. Chai called, and him and Kai talked for 2 hours. He stated that everything sounded normal. Kai didn't seem stressed or seem frustrated, like a normal day. They ended their call at, it was around noon. When Kai and her mom was having breakfast, the baby began to cry again, and so Chua picked her up this time, and her brother walked her son to school. He came back around 12:15 and went in his room. Chua put the baby back in the bouncy seat, prepared her bottle, and then went back outside to complete her yard work. Vaya, which is Kaya's brother, said he heard the baby crying between 1 and 1:30. It was off and on, which was not unusual. He left the house at 2 o'clock to pick up the older boys from school. When he left, he said that Kaya was at her computer working, and he didn't see or hear the baby. The computer showed that she was processing checks between 1:10 and 1:58 p.m. After Vi had left to go get the boys, Kaya was alone with the baby as her mother was still outside. During this time, she said she gave Maribel a bottle, then a passy, and that is when she saw Maribel's eyes tracking something. They went side to side, but there was nothing there. She said it scared her a bit, but she believed in God. Maribel rejected her pacifier and began to cry, so she picked her up and she stopped. At that time, she said her head started pounding and she saw a flash of light. Then she woke up to Maribel lying next to her in the bedroom. She believed she had had a seizure because she had wet herself and she had bitten her tongue. She had no idea what happened. She noticed that Maribel was red in the face. She was stiff, and she wasn't breathing. Crying, she frantically ran to the front door to get her mom, and as soon as she opened the door, her mother was there because she was coming in. Child stated that Kaya had her in her arms and she was crying and said that she was sick and they needed to get to the hospital. She said Kaya's face was flushed and she was sweating and she had wet herself. She couldn't speak clearly because she had bitten her tongue. Chawa unzipped the baby's pajamas and she saw that she was burned on her chest and her skin was peeling off her little body and it was hot. Kaya started to peel the skin near the top of her pajamas, but Chua smacked her hands. Vaya came home to an open door and saw them in there with the baby. Chua told him to call 911, in which he did. She told him that Kaya had a seizure and something had happened to the baby. That 911 call was placed at 2:09 p.m. He told him that Kaya had had a seizure and had dropped the baby because that's what he thought happened. The dispatcher gave CPR instructions and he began doing CPR. Kaya had told detectives that she had performed CPR, but Via said no, it was him. Via did not recall if Kaya was disoriented or not, but she was answering questions. Nothing suggested to him that Kaya had just had a seizure. Now, just putting it out there, do you think the reason for this could be the situation? Like, when your spouse wakes you up from a dead sleep, you're half awake, irritated, and say, like, what? But if your spouse wakes you up and tells you that your house is on fire, all of a sudden, you're wide awake. I'm trying to give the benefit of doubt at this time. And I don't know if that applies to someone being in a seizure or not, like when they wake up. If somebody just woke up from a seizure and you say the house is on fire, if they would immediately snap out of it and go, or if that matters or not. She had tried to have a baby girl. She had no signs of depression, frustration, stress, or anything. Everyone said she was happy and excited with the new baby. She also had an abundance of help. Also, if you were going to murder a baby, like, I could never think about doing that, but wouldn't you like smother it or something? I mean, I can't really think about that, but why a microwave? Well, I thought about that, and maybe she was thinking that there wouldn't be any evidence. No burns because there's no liquid, no flame, no chemicals. Maybe she thought that she could get away with it and they would blame SIDS. But why, if she was so happy? Was she that miserable and hid it that well? Via said that she was a very good mother who loved her children and would never do anything to harm them. At 2:16 p.m., the responders arrive and they ask her to move so they can access the baby who was lying on the couch. When asked what happened, she said she didn't know. Someone else told them about the seizure. They admitted that they broke protocol and didn't check out Kai, knowing that she had just had a medical emergency and they didn't check her out or transport her. I have to say, my mom would have been on that baby as well, and she, appeared to be fine, so I would have done the same thing. She thought that maybe when she had had the seizure, she fell and the baby had fallen on the heater. They stated that Kaya was calm, alert, and didn't appear to be confused or disoriented in any way. Officers arrived at 2:23 p.m. when the EMS workers had pronounced her dead. She repeated the seizure story to them. Again, they notated her as calm, but one officer said that her calm demeanor could be from shock. A detective on the scene found a melted pacifier in the microwave. Maribel had died from thermal injuries sustained from radiation from a microwave oven. She had second and third degree burns on 56% of her tiny body and suffered severe internal burns, consistent with a microwave oven. The burn patterns were consistent with Maribel being placed lengthwise on her back in the microwave. A microwave expert, who knew there was such a thing, he estimates that she was in the microwave at least 5 minutes. It would have taken 2 to 3 minutes to have killed her and another 2 to 3 minutes to have caused burns. In order for this to happen on that model of microwave, you would have had to have pressed 500 and start. You deliberately do this. You have to think about this. You just can't hit 5 and it go for 5 minutes. It'll only go for 5 seconds. The only other way is to hit the baked potato button twice and then hit start, and it'll run for 5 minutes. The officer stated that they didn't notice any injuries to her mouth or tongue. He saw no blood, and he stated that her pants were not wet when he got there. She denied putting the baby in the microwave. but how can you deny something that you don't remember? She said she had never hurt herself or others when having a seizure, but she later agreed with the detective that she did not have a seizure because she did not fall down, and she always falls down when she has them. So that's kind of throws it off a little bit. She denied ever being frustrated or angry at the baby. They decide to question Kai along with her mother, Chua, which is odd for them to question them together. When they asked her why she killed the baby, she stated that it was the spirits that made her do it, meaning the seizures. On March 18th, Chai spoke to Kaya at the police station. Kaya told him the spirit called me, so I had a seizure, and that she probably fell, and the baby fell on the heater. She told him about Maribel tracking something with her eyes. She was crying and spitting out her pacifier. She told him the spirit demon was looking at her through the window, and it was a white demon or spirit outside staring at her and the baby at a different time than when she saw Maribel's eyes moving back and forth. But he later agreed with the prosecutor that it was the same time. Kai also told him that the demon or spirit was walking around the outside of the house and they wanted the baby. He agreed that her talking about demons and spirits was her way of trying to make sense of it all. Kaya is of the Hmong, H-M-O-N-G, descent, and they believe that seizures are like a possession or being possessed at the time. They refer to spirits as seizures. Vaya does not believe that, and he said that he thought that was a bunch of horseshit. Chaya testified that Kaya had told him that there was a good demon in the front of the house and a bad demon at the back of the house. He said she told him that a demon had made her kill the baby. Now, I had to look up to see if there was such a thing as a good demon, also a white one, because I'd never heard of it. Apparently, a good demon is like a guardian. He said that Kaya told him that she had had a seizure and the spirit, aka seizure, took over her body and made her kill the baby. Chua testified that her son and Kaya's brother Kaio told her many things in regards to spirits and demons. Kaya said she didn't want to repeat it, or that he told her that her house was built on a cemetery, or that the demons wanted to take her and her children because she didn't want to be called crazy. Chawa stated she never taught the children about spirits or demons, or that the Hmong taught about seizures, spirits, etc. A week after the death, she stated she saw spirits but didn't say what day or if she saw them before or after the murder. She didn't connect the spirits or demons to the killings. Kaio had spoken to his sister before and after the murder. She didn't mention anything about the spirits or demons to him, but she did say that she had a dream about them. April 2011, she told CPS the same story in regards to the seizures. She also stated that she had saw shadows, but the worker didn't ask when this was, if it was before or after the murder. Great job. I really hope you are more thorough with your home evaluations than you are with questioning. A doctor testified that Kaya had general onset seizures. At first he had stated that she shouldn't be prosecuted, but after reviewing the timeline a little more closely, he changed his opinion. He stated that she could not have made a complex entry in her computer at 1:50 p.m., had a seizure, put the baby in the microwave in a confused state, punched a series of complex numbers, brought the baby to her mom at 2:09, asked a coherent question about her baby, and had been in a state of full and complete recovery between 2:10 and 2:12 p.m., and no one noticed a postictal state. It would have expected her to be in the floor experiencing confusion for about 20 to 30 minutes after the seizure. A psychiatrist testified there are 5 reasons that are commonly used that a mother kills her child. 1. The child is unwanted. 2. Revenge against the father. 3. Overzealous discipline. 4. Altruism, which is saving a child from a fate worse than death. 5. Acute psychotic or postictal state without comprehensible motive. He believes that she had had a seizure. She was negative for depression, postpartum depression, and psychosis. In August 2011, Kai reported audio hallucinations, which was after the murder. There were voices talking in her head, and she would try to cope with them by trying to push them out by not paying attention to them. Sometimes this would work, and sometimes it wouldn't. Other times, it was like someone was right over her shoulder. She told Chai and her priest, which is kind of weird because she's Mormon, and when they came to the house after the murder, they told her it was all in her head. Well, that's kind of harsh. Right after the birth, she said she wasn't eating a lot, and the voices increased, and so did her seizures. After the death of her daughter, the voices died down, and so did her seizures. She denied being depressed. She also said she never told anyone about the voices because she was afraid people would think she was nuts. The prosecutor said that she suffered from psychosis, which she did not, and that the jury should ignore the testimony from the doctor because she did have it. It was just underdiagnosed. That's bullshit. He said she was overly stressed. Again, no evidence of this. He said she was frustrated with a crying baby. No evidence of this. He stated that she was depressed. She was not. I don't know why he said all these things. I mean, you don't have to prove motive, just that she done the act, and if it was like premeditated or intentional or an accident, like, I'm all with the prosecution just about on everything, you know, because I demand justice. But don't try to say stuff that's not true. You either believe that she did it out of cold blood, or she did it in a confused state when she had a seizure and she had no idea what she was doing. It's that simple. So, that kind of pissed me off with the prosecutor. So I'm curious, what do you guys think? Any ideas? Well, the jury found her guilty of first-degree murder and assault of a child resulting in death. She got 25 years to life on count 1, plus another year for the weapon, which was a microwave. She got 25 years to life on count 2. So she got a total of 51 years. But I'm really curious to know what y'all's thoughts are on this. But I thought this was a very interesting story. It is an extremely sad story. One that I'd never really heard of. I've never heard of a death being caused by a microwave before. So that kind of struck my interest, and unfortunately it had to do with a child instead of somebody getting electrocuted. Not like that's, great, but at least they would have lived some life, But anyway, that wraps up this episode. Again, I hope you enjoyed it. Please like, subscribe, and share with your friends. And if you can become a premium member, we would very much appreciate it. Podcasting is not free. But if you can't afford it right now, understand times are hard, that's fine. You can still support the show by liking, subscribing, and sharing to everyone that you know that likes true crime podcasts. Also, you need to store this phone number in your phone just in case you see child abuse. You can call this number. It's 1-800-422-4453. That number is 1-800-422-4453. You can also text that number. Again, it's better to report it and nothing be going on than not reporting it and something be going on. So until next time, guys, avoid rest stops and be safe.